Happy Friday!
Happy Friday. Well, here we are again on our Friday IG Live. So excited. Hope a lot of you can join us. We have been talking a lot about goal planning because that's been the theme for all of September and really kind of running into October as we get into the entrepreneur new year. So one of the common themes that we hear a lot, which makes sense, and we all struggle with, Jen and I included, of course, is motivation. How do we hold on to motivation and deal with that issue while we're trying to reach our goals? Because let's be honest, many times, at least for me, I may not feel motivated. So I have to figure out, how do I get back to that feeling of motivation? And then if I can't, what do I do? Right?
That's right. That's right. That's right. Well, and we go back and forth, right? Because motivation is highly important, and there are other things that are also highly important that sometimes we have to focus on when our motivation fails us. And so one thing that we had been talking about is this idea that I think people use motivation as an excuse to not succeed.
Yeah.
Because I think what happens is people are like, well, highly successful people are always motivated. And so then when they feel a lack of motivation, they're like, well, I guess I'm just not going to succeed at that. And they quit.
Or it must not be that important.
That's right.
That's another big one.
That's right. And so what we're here to talk about is motivation is important, and yet it isn't 100%. We can't rely on it to be our only strategy because we're not always going to feel motivated. And really, I feel like you're winning at a really high level if you're motivated 70% of the time.
70% is a number we use a lot. Because,
I know.
Because it's true. If you can do anything 70% of the time, basically, you're winning.
Yeah.
This is not like school where it's a C. No.
That's right. That's right. And I think that's really important that you say that, because people that are high achievers, right? We can sometimes get stuck in that like performance thinking, right? And like, I gotta like perfection, all of those pieces. And when in reality, motivation is only going to be there for us some of the time.
That's right.
So we're also going to talk about some other things that you can do when motivation fails you.
Yeah. So should we talk about the 4 pillars?
Is that what you want to do?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Well, yeah, because I think, so Jen has it's amazing, these 4 pillars. She's done a lot of trainings on this that are so helpful when it comes to identifying why you're not feeling motivated and targeting and zeroing in on these areas to increase your motivation. So there are things you can actively do to be more motivated. So Jen's going to talk about that part.
Yeah, so basically when I say 4 pillars, these are things that when in place, you tend to feel motivated at a higher level. Again, not all the time, and yet you're going to feel motivated at a high level. When folks come to me and they're like, I don't have any motivation, I'm not sure why, I can't make this happen, whatever, I go back to these 4 things, which we're going to talk about, because usually it's one of these things that have sort of fallen a bit or haven't been well developed, and so that's why the motivation doesn't stay. So energy is number 1. You hear us talk about energy management all the time. It's really one of our sort of foundations at Next Level Wealth, because it seems so obvious, and yet it is not simple, right? It's simple, not easy. It's just not easy to put in place to really manage your energy at a high level, which leads to your ability physically, emotionally, all of those things to just show up for whatever it is that you want. Right? So energy is sort of baseline. Below that, I always think of the second one as inspiration and passion, right? I need to feel inspired to do whatever it is that I want to do. Now, again, not all the time. There's going to be times where I don't feel inspired or passionate about the things that I'm doing. And yet, hopefully, I understand that there's something larger at play here. And so I can override that and get to, okay, ultimately this is my passion. And so I can do this thing that isn't very inspiring. Right? The last one, or this third one, is planning. So planning, intention, right? What I tend to see is people have the energy, unlock, they've got passion and inspiration, but they don't put it in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're not intentional about their time. They're not, they don't plan for it. And so it doesn't happen. And then they're like, oh, I really wanted to do that thing. And yet it isn't accomplished because of that lack of planning. So I think that's a really important piece as well. And then beyond that, one of Amy's favorite words is, boundaries and then also accountability.
That's right.
Do you have the boundaries in place? And boundaries is so foundational for all of these things, because boundaries, we could put energy at a high level, is found because we put boundaries in place, guardrails, right?
We'll say yes to everything.
That's right. Same thing, inspiration, passion. I think when we can create a container of because passion, unbridled, right? Like that can go to a lot of different things. It can lack focus. We have a hard time kind of moving forward because we're interested in so many different things, right? And so boundaries or containers allow us to kind of narrow that focus a little bit, so that we can really move forward in whatever we're inspired by or passionate. And then same thing with planning. Obviously, those are natural guardrails we put in place in our calendar and in our lives in order for us to stay motivated. So to me, those 4 things are really foundational for that 70%. Remember, we're talking about 70% of the time is really your top end on how often you're going to feel motivated. Mm-hmm. So there's 30% of the time, which Amy's going to spend some time talking about, that you don't have that motivation.
Yeah.
And so you might need some override, and she's going to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we might say 30% on average, right? Because there may
On
be
average.
days where I am only 20% motivated.
That's right.
So I see these 4 pillars, like Jen was talking about, and it's so brilliant because it gives you this framework and these strategies to increase your motivation. So these 4 pillars are really important, and if you could even jot them down somewhere, you can probably find them on our Instagram. They're super helpful when you're not feeling motivated to reach your goals and you're struggling. So you can really look at that and identify, where do I need to put some time and energy, or how do I increase my energy? Now I'm going to talk about habits, which when I say habits, I think sometimes people go, oh God, habits. It's just so not fun sounding. This is I see habits as fun once they get started, but this is maybe the not fun part of it. So what can you fall back on when you cannot access a feeling? That's the question. What can you fall back on when you can't get to the feeling of motivation? When everything you're trying to feel motivate doesn't work? Feelings are just feelings. They're temporary. They come and go. So what we can fall back on are habits. What are the habits that you've created in your life that allow space for you to move forward when you don't have that feeling? Okay. So how do we create habits? Well, we create habits by setting an intention. Actually, some of these pillars, right? Having accountability and just really committing to carving out a habit that supports your life. But we start small. One of the big issues I see with people is when they're trying to create a new habit, what do? I'm going to do this thing every single day for an hour a day, never ending.
Yeah.
End of story.
And never eat sugar again, and never.
Oh my
this,
gosh, yes.
Never
Never eat sugar
it's
again.
always these extreme statements. Anytime you're saying I'm never going to do this, I'm always going to do this, every day I'm doing this, right? That's when I see this go awry.
Oh, and I used to be just famous for that. I did everything. There was no in between for me. So, and then what happened? I would do it for a day, a week, a month, and it would fall off. So what I want you to do is to think about one small habit that you can create, that you can work on. Maybe you want to work on starting your day earlier because you know that would support you in getting more done. Maybe you are a morning person, but you haven't been getting up as early as you want to. So rather than saying, I'm going to go from 7 a.m. to 6 a.m., I am going to start getting up at 6:45 every day. I'm going to reevaluate this. I'm going to see if it works for me, but I'm going to start small. Or maybe you don't do every day even. If I can, goes back to the 70%. If I can get up at 6:45 instead of 7 4 or 5 days a week, oh my gosh, I am winning. I am creating a new habit. So please don't overwhelm yourself. Start small. Create small habits that you know are going to support you in reaching your goals. Focus on that. Maybe it is a habit that increases your energy, your time. Maybe it's a habit around accountability. But think about that. Start small. For me, working out has become such. I talk about weightlifting all the time, but whatever. Working
Heavy
out.
weights. This one. She loves those heavy weights.
Working out has become such a huge part of my life. And what I used to do is, and Jen probably knows this, what I used to do is create these big goals around it, right? I'm going to work out for an hour, 5 times a week. And that was just too much. But what I found was when I started with, okay, I'm going to, and actually I'm doing a challenge where I create a new habit every month, or I try to. So the first one I did was 15 minutes of intentional movement every day. Just 15 minutes. Because I know that's achievable. And I know what it does is it establishes the habit. And then I can build on that habit. So habits build on habits. So I can increase that now. If I'm doing it consistently for 15 minutes, I can do it for 30 minutes. And I can move forward from there. But I got to start small and establish that habit and build upon that. And those habits, as you create them, you will notice that they become more automatic, and you can fall back on them when you can't find the feeling.
Love that.
No.
Can't find the feeling? Go to your habits.
Go to your habits.
Love it.
All right.
I love it.
So yeah, go forth and create one small habit. Make that a challenge for yourself.
I love it. Have a wonderful week. We will see you here same time next week.
Got it. Bye.